Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. I'm Michael O'Connell from Spotfire, and I'm thrilled to have Andrew Berridge, Spotfire Data Scientist, and Helene Snelting, Spotfire Community Expert, on the call today. We're going to take you on a tour of Spotfire mods. Let's get started. Standard confidentiality slide. What we're going to go through today, a little bit of an intro on Spotfire mods, and then give you a demonstration of our new Violin plot mod. And then Helene's going to take us through the community resources supporting this. As a quick set of bookmarks, you might want to take a photo, just the bookmark community.tibco.com. A lot of the material is there. You can also ask us any questions you want, join our LinkedIn groups for Spotfire and data science. Lots of activity in the Spotfire community. So let's talk about Spotfire mods. What are they? These are the Spotfire visualization mods. You can grab and go, in a sense. You can go to this site, tibco.com/mods, and you can grab mods that have been developed by us, as well as by some of our partners and customers in this marketplace. These are no-code custom visualizations for Spotfire that behave just like Spotfire. So interactive, brush link, visual analysis, one graph marking another graph, immersive. The mods are often specialized industry visualizations that are not in the base palette of Spotfire, or you can build your own. So there's a developer environment based on JavaScript that we'll show you today. It's lightweight. It's live connected to Spotfire from JavaScript dev environment. You can start with D3, or you can use commercial JavaScript libraries, or both. You can leverage all of Spotfire's built-in capabilities here. So as I mentioned, brush linking or trellising, or whatever you want to bring into the mod, you can bring into the mod, and it just works like a Spotfire visual. So either grab or develop your own visualizations, make them available in the Spotfire library. You can then literally from the flyout in Spotfire, click anything in the library into the visual flyout, and then you just click them into your Spotfire visual and map the data to them. It's very, very, very simple. And so these mods we've got up on the community site. You may have seen our network chart mod. That's a very popular one, looking at relationships. In this case, this is data from the DEA, and we're looking at relationships between on opioid prescriptions, between who wrote it, who supplied it, who picked it up, or that kind of thing. Now, these Spotfire visualization mods, we're focused today on the business analyst persona in the middle there, and those folks just, like I say, grab them from the flyout, the graphics flyout, and add them into their visual analysis. But we're also going to show you on the left-hand side here the JavaScript developer experience and how you can work in VS Code or with D3 graphics or Node.js, whatever your favorite environment is, to develop the mod and then put it into Spotfire for the business user to use. And then after the business user creates their Spotfire analysis, that's one click shared into a web browser where anyone can come along and click around and understand the visual analysis inside of the web browser, and fully supported throughout that journey. You can see the community site giving you an overview of the different mods that you can download, and also how you can develop those. So this idea of having the Spotfire environment and the JavaScript developer environment connected live while you're building the mod. You can see a little video of that here, where left-hand side, you see the VS Code environment with JavaScript code in it, as you can change various things on that code. And see what the effect of that is on your mod as it appears inside of Spotfire. So it really is a good connected developer environment. Now the business user, they just, like I say, they just go to the flyout, the visual flyout, they grab the mod off the list and just configure it. Just basically put the data into it. This is a rows chart for looking at wind patterns around a 360 view. And there I've just configured that wind data, the NOAA wind data, to that rows chart. And I've got that now part of my visual analysis. So some of the latest mods, we're going to be focused today on the Violin chart mod. The well log mod is very popular in the energy industry, top right-hand side there. Lots of activity in that one. If you want to participate in that one, please let us know. We're opening up code for that. You can go and get into GitHub and create your own additions or work with us collaboratively. Scatterplot matrix lower left is a recent release. And then this ARIA natural language generation, intelligent narrative mod as well. So the violin plot mod for Spotfire, this started with a modathon we did last year. It was won by a partner of ours, Genware. And then we've partnered with them to co-develop that to take it to production quality. This is very useful for understanding and comparing different distributions of data. So in high-tech manufacturing, we'll talk about today, where you're looking at yield analysis and you're looking at the spread from top to bottom. You can see the box plot there, but also overlaid with that, giving you a better and more detailed understanding of the distribution of the data. Allows you to drill in and fit that smooth function across there. It's not just the interquartile range that's in focus. The distribution in general has more detail to it, which is very useful in comparing yield across different sites or different time points. Pharmaceutical companies for comparing different patient cohorts with respect to efficacy or adverse events, and any other related data sets across time or across different conditions. The idea of the violin plot mod, it combines the box plot with the violin plot and exploits the best features of both. The violin plot shows the probability density of those different values, smoothed by the kernel smoother, and the box plot overlays on top of that. So Andrew, who's been working hard on this violin plot mod, I just want to have you explain to the audience here what you've been doing. My understanding of this the box plot was originally introduced in early back, John Tukey, early days of his work in the 70s, his exploratory data analysis book. It was his original invention, the box plot. But Andrew, can you give the audience a quick primer and recap on what the box plot does?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Michael. And didn't I hear that you met John at one stage in your career?
Very early in my graduate school, he came and gave a lecture to the stat class. And so, I feel honored. He was the end of his career and a very storied career, so it was great to have that honor. But yes,
nice. I'm jealous. Anyway, he was very influential and came up with some great concepts. So the idea behind a box plot is it gives you standard 5 key statistical calculations that enable you to understand the overall general shape of the data. And it shows you where most of the data is concentrated. So if you look at the center of the plot, you'll see the median highlighted in white, and either side of those are the boxes. Now, the bottom box goes from the first quartile to the median, and then the top box goes from the median to the third quartile. The first quartile is the lowest 25% of the data, and the third quartile is the highest 75% of the data. Now that tells you where most of your data is centered, so it already gives you kind of a really nice overview of where it is. But then you need to look at where how the rest of the data influences the shape you're looking at. So normally we do this by convention, at least. We have the lower adjacent value, which is the lowest value that is the smallest value. This is greater or equal than the lower inner fence, and the lower inner fence is Q1 minus 1.5 times the interquartile range, and then the similar applies to the upper adjacent value. Now, anything outside of those is counted as an outlier, so you can see those outliers regarded as points up there, but those don't statistically alter the shape of your data, but they can be quite interesting to focus on if you're looking for anomalies or other such things in your data.
Excellent explanation, Andrew. Well, now, how does the violin plot mod work, combining the box plot with the smoother?
Yeah, so the violin plot takes the box plot and adds the distributions of the data over that. So it's particularly useful when the data distribution is multimodal, so you can't see that right now. But when you see the demo, you'll see that it shows the presence peaks, their position, and the relative amplitude. So if the violin is wider, more of your data fits at that point on the y-axis. And you'll definitely see an example later on where the box plot shows the overall shape, but it doesn't reveal the detail in the data, which you may miss if you're just using a box plot. I would like to say at this point that some people may be put off by the relative complexity of the statistics, but it's definitely my opinion that if you use box plots correctly, then they can be interpreted by anybody. You don't need to know what the statistics actually mean and how to interpret them. And I'll show you a key example of where that's true later on.
Sounds good, but it's great to get the detail and refresher as well, Andrew, on what these
absolutely.
Now, tell us a bit about how we can use the the Violin plot mod to compare different distributions for different locations or time points.
Yeah, so this is really interesting, and it's an almost unique feature of Spotfire. I've only been able to find these elsewhere, in one other product, but I think they're really brilliant because you can visually compare these distributions, but you might not empirically know statistically which ones are different from each other. So these circles are drawn with their centers, and not many people use them because I just don't think they know that they exist. So these circles are drawn with their centers at the mean value for the boxes to which they correspond. If the circles are not overlapping, then the means of these two groups are generally significantly different. However, if they do overlap, then the means are not significantly different. You'll see the name Tukey again. So he was key in coming up with statistics to enable us to be able to calculate this again. What a guy. If I could spend the whole presentation on how these comparison circles work. We have documented them in the comparison circles algorithm link down below. They do exist in the standard Spotfire box plots, but we thought it'd be a great idea to implement them in this Violin plot mod.
So basically, Andrew, the second city there, Atlanta, is a little different than the other three cities. The other three cities are pretty similar.
Yeah, exactly. You can see the black circle here is the one that I've marked, and you can see it doesn't overlap with the others. And you can see by the shape of the data that it looks quite different, right? And it's got a lot more spread, and the median is lower than the others, and also the mean will be lower than on the y-axis than the others.
Very good. So Atlanta's different. What's the measure that we're comparing the cities on?
This is average sales.
Okay, very good.
Oh, average price. I'm sorry.
Average price for a particular item. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can see a great, distribution spread and changes in the distribution between Atlanta and Baltimore. And really reflected nicely in the Violin part of the plot.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about high-tech manufacturing. So if we now look at some measurement results during a process that's occurring over time, explain what's going on in that top Violin plot and why that third time point is so different.
Yeah, it's actually it can be anything, but in this case, I've chosen to represent 4 batches.
Okay.
From what I understand when working with semiconductor manufacturing is you don't always know what measurement results you should expect from your data. So you can't empirically say that one batch is better than another, or a yield of a batch is better than another, or a measurement is better than another. You can't really say that. But what you are interested in is comparing the distributions of the measurements that you get from your measurement equipment. So this Violin box plot mod is absolutely essential to the semiconductor manufacturing industry, because they can lie batches or results from different machines or different products all together on one plot, and they can look for the distribution that looks somewhat different to the others, and then they can identify if there's a problem with that machine, that batch, that process, that product, without having to know the specific ranges that they need, they expect.
Yeah, and oftentimes a batch of product as measured here can reflect a particular batch of raw materials, or a batch of a piece of the componentry or the materials going into the process. So you can narrow down and get a root cause analysis around why that third batch there is behaving like that, and find the culprit and fix it, right?
Yes, of course. And we have further tools in Spotfire that allow you to do that. Wafer maps. Also, we've got the example we're showing at the bottom here is pattern analysis of the wafer maps as well. So you'd use the box plot to tell you overall what's going on, the Violin mod to show you what's going on overall. And then when you've established that there's a problem or something you need to look at, then you can use the other tools we've got in Spotfire to do the root cause analysis and get to the real nub of the problem and then sort it out.
Very good. So the 2 plots on this slide are both pretty much exclusive to Spotfire, being able to figure out the distribution of the batch and being able to understand the pattern on the wafer, a spatial pattern on the wafer, that informs the yield and the best process that you can define to get the highest yield. So
Yes,
very cool stuff, Andrew. So look, let's go jump without further ado into the demonstration and show folks what you've been doing.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much. You can see my screen properly, right?
We can.
Excellent. Okay, so this is the sales data that I was showing earlier, and actually for those interested, it's showing avocado sales, and I'll be keeping with average price on the y-axis. This is just an example that we can all understand. So this is the example that was shown on the slides earlier, where we're categorizing, we're splitting the boxes and the violins up by geography. Now, that's interesting in its own right. I mean, you can see this is Atlanta that they showed earlier, and it seems to be a little bit different from the others. Maybe I've not selected exactly the same data sets as others. So in this case, Boston is the one that's the outlier in this case, but I think I'm looking at slightly different data to the slides, so don't be confused by that. You can see I just marked that comparison circle, which has highlighted Boston here, so we can see that that's a potential interest that we want to look at, because its mean is significantly different from the others. But like I said earlier, you can do all this statistical analysis with box plots, splitting the data however you want. But I think, at least for the uninitiated, one of the cleanest and nicest ways to look at these kind of plots is when looking at something over time. So let me just switch this to date, year, month. So now we have year and month on this horizontal axis, the x-axis at the bottom. We've split by into each of the months. Now what we can see is that there is a bit of a trend over time, and you don't need to know what all these statistical measures actually mean if you're just trying to gain initial insights into what's going on in the data. And to make that even easier, we've implemented some cool features that aren't in the standard Spotfire box plot. So let me turn some of those on. We have a fully accessible configuration dialog at the top here. So you can see I've enabled the violin plot, the box plot, and I can customize those. I can change the smoothing of the violin plot and how granular that is. Change colors, do all those nice things, turn the comparison circles on and off, blah, blah, blah. But what I wanted to show you is that we also have a full suite of configurable statistical measures that we can include in this plot. So what I would like to enable is the trend line. So now you've got an even better view. It's like a line chart plus. So not only can you see the average, but you can see how the data is distributed around that average. So I've just turned that on as a trend line. I can also turn it on in the statistics table, and also as a reference line if I want. I can customize the line if I want. I can choose different colors, just so you can differentiate them from each other. But regardless, we have a full set of these lines that you can turn on or turn off at your will and see how things move over time. Now, a couple of other key features to show you, which is over and above the standard Spotfire box plot. We have log. I don't think the Spotfire box plot does that. I've been so focused on this for so many months. I can't remember, but I don't think it does. We can also show the p-value, which is a measure of how different all the distributions are. Formatting, etc., etc. So you see the general idea here that you can turn all these things on and off and customize them to your heart's content. One other key feature of this violin mod also is trellising. I think it's one of the first mods that we've released that properly supports trellising. So much like you can trellis the Spotfire box plot, you can also trellis this violin mod. Maybe I've got a few too many items on my x-axis, but of course I can change that. And also it supports some really nice layout features. So, for example, just like in the Spotfire, you can change the panels and the number of panels you want to show on the screen. And also another useful feature, because at the moment you can see I've just got a single zoom slider that affects all the trellis panels. But you can also show individual zoom sliders. So that also has the effect of enabling a single axis, y-axis for each of the trellis panels. So that gives you full customizability, because sometimes you might like to you might like to have a single y-axis, and other times you might want to have each one show the domain of the range and domain of the values within it. So that is a whistle stop tour. Anything strike you, Michael, that you'd like me to call out in addition to what I've covered?
No, it's brilliant amount of detail that you have for control over there, Andrew. I even noticed that you had the alpha level on the Tukey Kramer test that you could set for the significance test. So all the statistics that you could possibly want, the layout options, like you mentioned, having the overall zoom slider or the individual ones. Sometimes you have a need for that. Really, it's pretty amazing the detail you've been able to do here, and the applications to different industries. Whether it's outcome data in pharmaceutical, where Frank Harrell really popularized the violin plot. He's a big R developer and clinical and outcomes data statistician, or whether it's this high-tech manufacturing use case where every understanding of every part of that distribution is really can translate into yield and dollars.
Exactly.
We've got a question coming in, Andrew, from JP Lee on the data size available for the violin mod.
Well, it's how big is a piece of string? How long is a piece of string? I'm afraid. I think you have to suck it and see. I mean, we've tried it with some quite large data sets. Luckily, the mods API and the mods framework does actually compress the data as it goes into the mod, and we're taking advantage of that in terms of using highly efficient ways of calculating the statistics in the mod source code itself. So we've tried it with some quite large data sets. What tends to affect the performance is if you have a lot of rows with a lot of trellis panels, because if you think about it, every trellis panel is an individual copy of that visualization, so it increases the computation that's required. But we've tried it with some quite large data sets, and it's been performant.
We can offer JP to send us a data set or collaborate, send us an email. We'll try it out with him. I think
absolutely. Yeah, I think we've spoken before, so I'm more than happy to have a meeting with you, JP, and I can send you a test version of the mod and we can try it out.
That'd be great. And yes, JP, the trellis feature is available with other mods. You have to configure it through your code, but yes, part of anything that you can do with a Spotfire native visualization, you can do in a mod pretty much. And Andrew's done a bang up job on this one.
Yeah, but we mustn't forget our collaborators there. I mean, it's not just me, right? There's a couple other people in TIBCO, and also David from Genware. We couldn't have done it without him and without the support of Genware either. So
yeah. And I think, JP is from the pharmaceutical industry, I believe, and Novartis. So I think, we're also looking, you saw that we focused this one on our strength in manufacturing, the well-log mod we've got going on in the energy sector. If there's particular mods for pharmaceutical that JP or others want to see, we're all ears. We like to collaborate, like Andrew just did with the Genware folks.
Yes.
There's another question coming in about highlighting outlier uncertainty circles and seeing which violin it relates to.
Yeah, you can, I think. So if I mark this outlier here, I think this is what Peter means. If I highlight that outlier and I've marked it, now because I've just highlighted something from one of the individual violin stroke boxes, You can see that one's highlighted with the circle down here on my screen, and it's also the black one is the corresponds to that. And you can hover over it just to confirm that 2020 January.
So when you highlight a different time point,
yeah, then that will move.
That moves. Yeah, got it. Okay.
Yes. So the black is the one that I've highlighted. The grey in the comparison circles, the grey are the others that overlap, and the red is the one that doesn't overlap enough. Now you may say that, oh yeah, but it does overlap. But there is I don't want to get into it now, but if you look at the reference manual for Spotfire, you can see that there's actually a calculation that involves Pythagoras and looking at the radius of the circles and how they intersect, and that enables you to tell whether the overlap of them is enough that they are, or not enough so that they're significantly different or significantly the same. So
before the alpha level of the Tukey-Kramer test that you set in the,
exactly.
you expose that as a clickable parameter in the way you implemented this. So very thorough. Exactly. Peter's also asking, can you highlight the circle on the right and does it mark back in the other direction?
Yes, it does.
Oh, wow. That's very cool. Very cool.
Live testing here.
Yeah.
Well, the answer is always yes.
Yes.
Great questions from Peter and JP.
Yeah.
Well, look, I think let's go through, and Helene's going to talk a bit about how we can make these available. So, if you can give me a presenter back here. I had a couple of slides before that, but maybe we can just skip those and go straight to the community. Helene.
Yeah, I suggest let's do quickly the community, Michael, and then we can add a bit more for people that want to stay, because we're 3 minutes before some people may have to leave. So just quickly, we've got quite a few resources on the TIBCO community. I'm actually going to show you the community itself, because I think that's always a better way to understand how to find things. So we've got a main menu where you can find most items. For example, on the Exchange, that is where all the mods that we've already produced are available for you to download and to use. So you can just find them if you search for mods, you can find even more. You can search the whole TIBCO community as well for Spotfire mods, and you'll find all kinds of nice articles that talk about mods. So some of the information that Andrew just shared can be found on the Spotfire mods overview. There's also a Spotfire mods developers help. So we really try to cater to all the different users of the mods. As Michael just explained, you can develop them, but you can also just consume them and just use them very easily in Spotfire. So that's available to you. The hubs can also be accessed from here. So we've got the known Spotfire hub, and the Spotfire mods developers hub is available from there as well. The other thing that you can access directly from the main menu is the ideas portal, and that's where we would love to get your ideas. So if you don't have time to develop a mod yourself, but you have an idea for one that you think is really useful, make sure you post an idea here so that we can prioritize them, because we continuously develop them, and we prioritize them based on your inputs. The other thing I always want to make sure you're aware of is that we have the TIBCO Spotfire YouTube channel. This is where all the videos are on mods and all other Spotfire topics. It's also where we post the Dr. Spotfire sessions. We also post these TIBCO Analytics meetups here. And actually, I just wanted to show you this. So the TIBCO Spotfire channel, all of the videos from these sessions are shared here as well, and Dr. Spotfire. And then if we go back to the community, on the main community page, that's also something that's useful to get used to, is the upcoming events are always posted here. So you can always find the next Dr. Spotfire session here. The TAM, the TIBCO Analytics meetup that we're in now, just disappeared because it's live now. So the other thing I wanted to share is our next big event. But let me just go back to sharing the slides. So all of these slides will be shared with you. Andrew has also already created a Violin plot mod specific article in the community with all the details. So we'll link to the slides for that as well. But we wanted to make sure, just at the end of the session actually, that we also invite you to the upcoming analytics forum. That will now happen on September 19th through the 21st, including a hackathon on the final day. So we're really excited to be hosting that. Michael, I don't know if you want to say a few words about the agenda and our preparations.
No, absolutely. Thanks, Elaine. Great stuff. The community really is thriving. We have Jan Willem Torp as the keynote speaker at the conference. He's a freelance data viz designer, done some really amazing projects for companies like Nielsen and Google. His work with astronomy data is off the charts for Scientific American, railways, all kinds of stuff, really innovative. And he's a JavaScript developer. He's a mods knowledgeable guy, and we're hoping that people can be inspired by his work to use more mods or create more mods. So he'll be kicking things off. We are going to have a session on mods. I think Andrew's involved in that one. We've got actions, Spotfire actions. We have a session with Adam and Marcelo on that one. We've got natural language processing, large language models. We're working on Spotfire copilots. We've got an update, very exciting area in that area. We're partnering with OpenAI as well as with Microsoft. We've got customer sessions, NL, so doing some really innovative work for predictive maintenance. Enatel, last year's hackathon winner, John Henderson, is going to really give his secrets away. So please come to that session. We have Pfizer and Moderna. We have NUHS in healthcare. We have Rightway in consumer goods. Done an incredible piece of work there with Spotfire, and then S&P Global for oil and gas. So really a good spectrum of sessions from multiple industries. All of our great Spotfire developers and champions across those industries will be getting together. So be there or be square, I guess.
Yeah, it's currently a save the date for September 19th through the 21st, but we'll soon publishing our registration site. So we'll definitely inform you of that through our LinkedIn channels, and you'll be probably contacted directly with some emails as well, just to make sure that you know when you can sign up. So I'm just trying to see if there are any final questions that we want to answer.
Yeah, there was,
there
was one, Helene. I spotted another one from JP Lee.
Yep.
Is this trellis? No, sorry. Any option for showing the point clouds within each box? Right. So do you want me to answer that one?
Yeah, go for it, Andrew. Yeah, go ahead. There's some jittering that's involved in that, right?
Yeah. And so I looked at doing that. In fact, the original mod that came from Genware did have that capability, but we found that when we had too many data points to display, it kind of spoilt the plot because there was no way to show that the density of those plots of those points, overlaying them. Which ones do you draw? How do you decide which ones to render and which ones are hidden behind the others so you can't see them? A bit like you would do with a scatter plot. So we decided that actually the only real reason for them being there was to enable marking of those individual points, that you could kind of lasso them or whatever, so you could mark them. So we actually got rid of them, and then you can use, and I didn't talk about it, but you probably saw me doing it, you can actually mark the data by just clicking and dragging. So you can mark a region of the violin, or you can mark a region of the box plot by clicking on it. So you've got those multiple different marking schemes. And like I said earlier, you can change the bandwidth of the violin, so you can make it more or less granular, so to show more or less detail if you want in the data. So that's what we did. It would still be my recommendation, at least, that if you want points that represent one of these,
Andrew, you're breaking up a little bit.
You should probably use just a scatter plot to do that. Right. But what's wrong with using this alongside a scatter plot?
Yeah. No, I think the points and the kernel smooth of the points are a little bit redundant to show both. I mean, you can certainly do a scatter plot, like you say, Andrew, but if you have set the kernel smooth to the width that you want to show the data at the granularity, you've kind of got that. The kernel smooth,
exactly.
Smooth is just a simple smoother on top of the raw data. So,
exactly.
So I think we got it covered.
I also noticed this question from Daniel Slidell. Would love to know more about the well log mod. So we can certainly follow up with you, Daniel. That's another sort of more complex mod that we've created, and that one is actually available publicly now. Maybe also a good point to make on this Violin plot mod is that we're still developing it and getting final approvals to publish it. But JP Lee, for example, if you're interested in trying it out, just contact Andrew, and we can work with you on testing it out on the data set. And as soon as we're available to publish it, we'll add a link to the community article, so you can.
Yes, and also, Daniel, you know us well. We know you well, so. Drop me a note, and I'll be more than happy to demonstrate the well log to you. I had a huge hand in developing that one too, so I'm more than happy to demonstrate that to you.
That's been a very popular one. We've had inputs from Petrobras and Exxon and Cepso, and a lot of companies are interested in it. Hess, and people are using it already. And I think we've opened up the repo for that one. So Daniel would love to get your eyes on it.
Yeah, and it's open source, like has already kind of been said. So the advantage of that is if you have an additional feature or function that you'd like to implement with a well log, then we can enable you to do that, and your contributions back to it would be most gratefully received, and that way the whole community can benefit from building together. Very good, absolutely.
So we're at 9:35. If there's folks sticking around, I could do a little bit more about how mods are combined with data functions, create a little more value. But what do you think, Elaine? Should I do a few minutes on that, or should we wrap it up?
Yeah, feel free. I think everyone's free to drop off if they have another meeting, and happy to extend a little bit. This will be also recorded and available for you to watch later. So.
Okay, well, let me just show you a little bit about how mods work with data functions. And Althea, if you can give me presenter again, I guess I'll need to
share again. Yeah.
Share again. Let's see.
Would you like me to progress the slides?
Yeah, let me just grab this. Share the slide deck again. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so yeah, you saw a great demo from Andrew there, and like we mentioned, Andrew showed primarily the business analyst view in configuring the mod and using the mod, directly from the flyout as part of a Spotfire analysis. The JavaScript developer experience is also very strong for creating the mod before you put it into the into the flyout, and then the consumer for viewing that in the web browser. So with data functions, it's a very similar experience in the sense that you've got R or Python code for the developer, and then that gets brought into the flyout for the FX flyout for data functions. And when you run that, Spotfire generates that point-and-click user interface for the business author, and then the business author fills that in and basically publishes it to the library, and that's automatically available for the consumer to look at in the web. So similar type of flow, and there's a community site there about that shares all of our Python and R data functions that you can publish into your library and bring into your flyout. Now, when you want to use these things together, I showed earlier how you can drag in a visual from the visual flyout and configure it, the rows chart. I'm going to show a longer version of this now that has a data function and a mod being used in the same analysis. So here we've got this wind data that we've gotten from NOAA. We're looking at the distribution of that data. We can see on the map where the NOAA monitoring sites are, and we can decide to create a data function or deploy a data function for smoothing the NOAA daily weather data on the map and show a contour analysis of the wind as a function of the geospatial coordinates of those locations. So you can see here, this is a UI that's automatically generated by Spotfire. I'm just filling it in as a business author to line up the data that I'm applying it to, and now I can just drag the results onto the map. There's a set of contour lines that I can configure, and now as I'm clicking around on that analysis from the data function smoother, I can see exactly where those wind values are similar. And now I bring in the rows chart from the mods flyout, and I configure that to the same data. And now I can look at the directionality of the wind. So we've got the wind patterns spatially, and then we've got the wind directional patterns that are now part of that analysis. And the mod and the data function just go really nicely together in that analysis and many other analyses that we do in Spotfire. So I just want to add that little bit as a sort of add-on to what Andrew showed earlier. And we have other examples where we're combining visual mods for displaying word clouds or text data to go hand in hand with our data functions that we have for fitting NLP analyses and more recently large language models. So I think I'll wrap it up there. And great tour of the community site from Helene, and a great demo from Andrew today. And we hope we see you at the Analytics Forum coming up in September. So yeah, save that date, 19th to 21st of September. Yes. And all the best. Thank you so much, Andrew, Helene. Great job.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks, Michael.
everyone.
Thank you really for attending. Bye.
Thanks for joining.
Bye.